Today you are living the life of a Roman gladiator. From a Thracian mountain village boy to a star of the Roman Colosseum, I traded half a lifetime of blood and sweat for a wooden sword that meant freedom. I was born in a Thracian mountain tribe. My father was a hunter, my mother spun wool. Our village hid among oak forests where morning mist clung to the grass and wolves howled from distant passes. From the age of 6, I herded sheep with my older brother, counting shapes in the clouds. My father taught me to throw stones at hares, saying a steady hand and sharp eye were how mountain children survived. At 8, my father let me hold a short bow for the first time. The string bit deep into my fingers. The moment I brought down a pheasant, he grinned, missing a front tooth, the brightest image of my childhood. The village elders spoke of the Roman legions beyond the mountains. Iron armor like a wall, spears like a forest. I thought it was a story to frighten children. Years later, they really did march into our pass. The winter I turned 10, the Roman legions came. First their horns, then hooves shaking the ground. My father shoved me into the cellar and told me not to make a sound. Firelight outside turned the sky red. At dawn, I was dragged from the cellar. The village was charred down to blackened beams. My father lay in the doorway with a spear in his chest. The look my mother gave me as she was dragged away stayed with me forever. Roman soldiers roped us together and marched us toward the coast on foot. Blisters bled, and no one was allowed to stop. Anyone who fell was speared and rolled into the ditch beside the road. The day we boarded the ship, I saw the sea for the first time. The lower deck held over 100 captives. The stench of sweat, salt, and rot mixed into one. Some of them never woke after the third day. The Roman slave market was more terrifying than any battlefield. Buyers circled the wooden platform pinching arms, prying open mouths to check teeth, measuring heights. My opening price was 200 denarii. The buyer was a lanista who owned a gladiator school, a fat bald man with sharp eyes. He squeezed my arm, nodded, and told his assistant the boy had a decent frame and could enter the sand in 2 years. The gladiator school at Capua was ringed by high walls and floored with yellow sand. My first night, a veteran told me there were only 2 ways out of here: walk out alive after a fight, or get carried out and fed to dogs. Training began before dawn. I swung a wooden sword until blisters formed, burst, and reformed. A whiplash from the trainer opened a stripe down my back. He said pain was good. Pain was how the muscles remembered. Dinner was barley porridge with salted olives. Afterward, I collapsed onto a straw mat, bones aching. The Gaul next door was called Lucas. We swapped stories of our homelands in broken Latin late into the night. 2 years and I learned blade work, footwork, and how to steady my mind. I learned not to tremble before a roaring crowd. The trainer finally nodded and said, "Tomorrow you fight. Your opponent is new. You should win." Stepping onto the Colosseum sand the first time, my legs went weak. The Roman crowd in the stands rose like a wave. The horns hammered my chest. My opponent stood 20 paces away. When his sword swung at me, my mind went blank. Only the body remembered the drilled parries. 3 exchanges and I clipped his thigh by luck. He fell to his knees in the sand and raised a hand begging for mercy. The emperor's representative gave a thumbs up and my opponent kept his life. They half-carried me off the sand, my legs still trembling. I retched half the night back at the barracks. That wasn't a hero, that was barely surviving. The second match was a tall North African, a head taller and frighteningly strong. I stayed in close, circled behind on quick feet, and when he drew breath, I drove a blade across his throat. The whole bout took less than a minute. Back at the school, the lanista gave me a wineskin as a prize. Lucas punched my shoulder and said, "You finally figured it out. No sleeping tonight. We're going to the back alley to drink properly. Training still resumes at dawn." By the third fight, I learned to read the crowd. They didn't want clean kills. They wanted danger in theater. I took a deliberate cut, then mounted a desperate counter. For the first time, the applause was for me. The trainer began teaching me to watch shoulders and feet. He said real masters didn't rely on strength, but on prediction. See where the opponent is about to go, and have the sword waiting there before he arrives. The 4th and 5th fights were wins. My name began appearing on painted notice boards in the streets of Capua. Lucas joked that I was about to make it big, and if we ever met in the arena, to please not finish him off. For the sixth, I chose the Retiarius style, net and trident, long range. One throw across the sand snared his legs. I planted the trident against his throat, and the match was over. Roman nobles began asking after my name. A senator in a purple-bordered toga sent silver coins and bet on my next bout. When I won, he gave me a small horse. That was my first piece of real property. At 26, I was sold up to the main arena in Rome itself. On opening day, 50,000 spectators filled the stands. The emperor's box hung above them all. When the horn sounded, every breath in the place went still. I wore the heavy armor and helm of a secutor, round shield strapped to the chest, short sword at the hip. My opponent was a tall Germanic fighter. We squared off mid-sand while the crowd chanted my name above the horns. 6 brutal exchanges and I knocked his shield away, then opened his guard arm. He sank to the sand with his hand raised. The emperor's thumb went up and the whole Colosseum erupted in cheering my name. The emperor sent a pouch of gold and a jeweled wine cup. Children in the streets of the Celian district copied my sword stance. Women outside the brothels pinned painted portraits of my face to the walls. Noble wives sent slaves with perfumes and love letters. Wealthy merchants invited me to dine at their villas. Sitting in a marble hall with a silver cup in hand, it didn't feel like my own life at all. Between fights, I went to the public baths. Everyone in the pool let me enter the water first. They called me the Sword of Thrace, one of the highest respects a Roman would offer in those years. I won my 10th, my 12th, my 15th. The Lanista said 3 more wins, and the emperor might grant me the wooden sword. The ludus, the gladiator's only token of freedom, and also the end of the road. On the training ground, I began coaching new recruits. Then Lucas was sold off to a school in Hispania. The night before he left, we drank until dawn. He said, "Brother, see you again in some arena." I started thinking about what came after freedom. Maybe go back to Thrace and search for my mother. Maybe open a fencing hall in Rome. Whatever it was, when this road ended, I would never kill again. The emperor himself announced my next bout would be the crowning fight. The opponent was kept secret until the day. I polished my short sword sharp, wiped the helmet 3 times, and waited for the day to come. When the opponent walked out, I froze. It was Lucas, called back from Hispania to be the headline fight. We stared at each other across the sand. The whole Colosseum was cheering, and we could not hear a sound. He swung first. He said, "Do it, brother, or we both die. The rules are the rules." We fought 20 full exchanges. The sand turned red. The cheering thinned to the low rasp of 50,000 held breaths. The final thrust drove into his chest. As he fell, his hand gripped my wrist, and he half smiled. He said, "Live in my place, and take that wooden sword." Blood ran from the corner of his mouth. I could not even cry aloud. The emperor gave gold and honors, but I threw the pouch of coins into the Tiber. 3 days I would not eat. Then the Lanista knocked and told me a quiet Spartacus-style uprising was being organized again. A few veterans came to me in the dead of night and said, "Come with us. Head south to Naples and rise." Holding Lucas' old sword, I thought through the night. At dawn, I said no. I still want that wooden sword. A week later, those uprising brothers were nailed to crosses lining the Appian Way. I passed by once, looked, and walked back to the school. From that point, I trained harder and swung the sword crueler than before. My 20th fight was an easy win. The 29th opponent was a rising Germanic star, 8 years younger than me. We fought to the very end, and in the last exchange, he cut deep into my right leg. The bone shattered. I went down on the sand and raised my hand. The emperor hesitated a long time, and finally turned his thumb up to spare me. The school's doctor said the bone could be set, but I would never run the old footwork again. Half a year of recovery, and I returned to the training yard on a cane. The Lanista glanced at me and said, "Old friend, it is time to retire. I will make you a trainer for the new recruits. Just put the sword away for good." As a trainer, I gave away every move I knew. I watched my students take the sand and earn the cheers, while I stood at the edge wiping their swords clean, proud and hollow at the same time. The new generation of gladiators grew taller and faster. Their names buried the legend of mine. Romans loved the new and forgot the old, Fresh portraits replaced last season's on the street walls every 3 months. At 50, my old leg wound flared up. I could no longer even cross the training yard. The Lanista granted me my freedom and a small pouch of savings, and told me to retire to a quiet town on the imperial frontier. The day I left Capua, no one came to see me off. With a cloth bundle on my back and a cane in hand, I walked through the courtyard where I had trained, where my old sword strokes still scored the sand. Days in the frontier town were quiet to the point of restlessness. I opened a small fencing hall and taught local boys the basics. They had no idea who the old man was, only that he taught sword work with quiet seriousness. In my final years, I returned to Rome one more time and stood alone on the sand of the empty Colosseum. Dust drifted across the stands. For a moment, the old cheering rose again, the echo of our generation of gladiators.